If you've ever found yourself wondering whether you're imagining things, whether her warmth means something deeper, or if you're quietly being placed in the safe category called just a friend, this message is for you. Because there are moments when attraction doesn't announce itself loudly, it whispers, and most men were never taught how to listen to that language. Stay with me, because near the end of this video, I'll share one subtle realization that often changes how men see their entire dating history. And before we go any further, if content like this helps you understand human connection with more clarity and calm, you're welcome to like the video and subscribe. Not out of obligation, but so these conversations can continue. Now, let's begin somewhere important. One of the first things many women do when they feel more than friendship is something that looks deceptively ordinary. They create emotional continuity. This means she doesn't just respond to you in the moment, she carries you with her across time. She remembers small details you didn't think mattered, a passing comment about your childhood, a frustration you mentioned weeks ago, a dream you half joked about, and she brings these things back later, not to impress you, but because her mind has already placed you in a meaningful category. From a psychological perspective, this is not accidental. Our brains prioritize what feels emotionally relevant. When a woman consistently recalls your inner world, it's often because you occupy more mental space than a casual friend would. Friendship can be warm and genuine, but it usually lives in the present. Attraction, however, has memory. It connects moments into a story. Another sign appears in how she listens to you, not just politely, not with nods and smiles, but with attunement. She notices changes in your tone. She senses when you're holding something back. She may ask questions that go slightly deeper than the situation requires. This isn't interrogation, it's curiosity with emotional investment. When a woman is only being friendly, she listens to respond. When she's interested, she listens to understand. You might also notice a subtle shift in how she positions herself emotionally around you. She may share personal thoughts that don't serve a practical purpose, reflections about her fears, her doubts, or her past decisions. This is significant because emotional self-disclosure is a form of trust. Psychologically, we open ourselves where we hope to be seen and accepted. When she chooses you as that space, she's signaling that you feel safe, grounding, and important. Now let me be clear about something crucial. None of these behaviors are guarantees. Human behavior is nuanced, but patterns matter. And one consistent pattern is this. When a woman sees you as more than a friend, she often invites you into her inner narrative, not just her daily routine. There's also something many men overlook because it feels too simple. She creates reasons to stay connected, even when there's no obvious need. A message that doesn't require an answer. Sharing a thought just because it reminded her of you. Checking in without a problem to solve. These are not grand gestures. They're quiet threads of connection. And psychologically, they reflect desire for ongoing emotional proximity. As you listen to this, I want you to remain grounded. The purpose here isn't to analyze every interaction or to chase certainty. It's to develop awareness. Awareness allows you to respond with calm confidence rather than anxiety or guesswork. Because the men who understand these dynamics don't rush, don't pressure, and don't overinterpret. They observe, stay present, and allow clarity to unfold naturally. And as we continue, you'll begin to see how these small signals, when taken together, tell a story far more honest than words ever could. Another revealing sign often appears in how she responds to your presence when nothing is required of her. This is less about what she says and more about how her energy shifts. When a woman is only being friendly, her emotional availability tends to stay neutral and contained. But when she feels something more, there is a noticeable softening. Her responses become warmer, more engaged, and slightly more expressive when you're around. She may laugh more easily, linger in conversation, or seem unusually attentive to moments that would otherwise pass quickly. From a psychological standpoint, this happens because attraction activates the nervous system. People don't just think differently around someone they're drawn to, they feel differently, and those feelings leak out in subtle ways. A longer pause before she leaves, a deeper sigh when the conversation ends, a reluctance to be the first one to disengage. These are not performances, they are emotional reflexes. Another important indicator is how she treats your boundaries. This may sound counterintuitive, but women who are interested often become more sensitive to how you feel rather than less. She notices when you pull back. She senses when you're tired, distracted, or overwhelmed. Instead of demanding attention, she adjusts. She might give you space without disappearing, or she may check in gently, not to claim you, but to remain connected. This balance between closeness and respect is rarely accidental. It suggests emotional maturity paired with interest. You may also notice that she mirrors aspects of you over time, not in a forced or obvious way, but subtly. She picks up phrases you use. She becomes curious about things you care about. She may even reflect your emotional tone during conversations. Psychological research has long shown that mirroring is a sign of rapport and attraction. We unconsciously align with people we feel drawn to because it creates a sense of harmony and shared rhythm. There's also a sign that many men misunderstand or dismiss entirely. She challenges you, but not to control you. When a woman sees you as more than a friend, she often wants to know who you really are under pressure. She may question your opinions, tease your assumptions, or push back lightly, not to diminish you, but to engage you. This kind of challenge is different from criticism. It carries curiosity rather than judgment. It's her way of exploring your emotional strength, self-awareness, and authenticity. Pay attention as well to how she reacts when other women are mentioned. This isn't about jealousy in a dramatic sense. It's more subtle. She might become quieter, more attentive, or ask questions that seem casual but carry emotional weight. This response often comes from a shift in perceived relevance. When a woman is emotionally neutral, your romantic life is just information. When she's interested, it becomes context. All of these signals share a common thread. They involve emotional investment. Time, attention, memory, and sensitivity are valuable psychological resources. When a woman consistently offers them to you, it's worth noticing, not to rush to conclusions, but to respect the reality that something meaningful may be forming. The men who navigate these moments well don't react impulsively. They don't seek reassurance or try to force clarity. They remain steady, present, and observant. Because attraction, when handled with patience and self-respect, has a way of revealing itself without pressure. And as we continue, you'll see how these emotional cues often become even clearer in the ways she allows you into her personal world. There is another layer of signaling that often goes unnoticed because it doesn't look romantic on the surface. It looks practical. When a woman is interested in you, she begins to integrate you into her decision-making, even in small ways. She may ask for your opinion on matters she could easily decide on her own. Not because she lacks confidence, but because your perspective has begun to matter to her emotionally. Psychologically, this reflects a shift from independence to inclusion. This inclusion can be subtle. She might ask what you think about a future plan, a career move, or a personal dilemma. What's important isn't the topic, it's the invitation. She is opening a mental space where your thoughts influence her internal process. Friends can exchange advice, of course, but when attraction is present, the tone changes. She doesn't just want information, she wants alignment. She wants to feel understood by you. Another sign appears in how she responds to your absence. This is not about panic or neediness, it's about awareness. When you're not around, she notices. She might mention that something felt different without you there, or she may reference a moment when she expected to hear from you. These comments are often understated, almost casual, but psychologically, they reveal that you've become part of her emotional baseline. Your presence, or lack of it, registers. You may also observe that she gives you access to parts of her life that aren't polished. She lets you see her when she's tired, uncertain, or not at her best. This is significant. Many women, especially emotionally intelligent ones, are selective about where they allow vulnerability. When she chooses not to perform strength or perfection around you, it suggests trust and emotional safety. And trust is one of the strongest foundations of attraction. There is also the way she reacts to your growth. When a woman is interested, your progress matters to her. She notices when you become more confident, more disciplined, or more grounded. And instead of feeling threatened, she often becomes more engaged. She might encourage you, ask questions, or reflect back changes she's observed. This isn't admiration from a distance. It's emotional participation. Another often misread sign is when she becomes more honest with you. Not kinder, honest. She may tell you when something bothers her. She may express disagreement more openly. This can confuse men who assume attraction always looks like constant approval. In reality, emotional investment often brings clarity. She cares enough to risk mild tension rather than remain neutral. Indifference avoids discomfort. Interest engages with it. What ties all of this together is a shift in emotional risk. When a woman sees you as just a friend, there is very little at stake. When she begins to see you as more, her behavior reflects a willingness to invest, to include, and to be seen. These are not strategies. They are natural expressions of emotional relevance. For you, the goal is not to dissect every interaction, but to notice patterns. Consistency matters more than intensity. One moment means little. Repeated behaviors reveal intent. As we move forward, you'll begin to recognize how these internal shifts often translate into very specific changes in how she prioritizes you in her life. One of the clearest signs that a woman sees you as more than a friend is how she prioritizes you when life becomes busy. This is not about dramatic sacrifices or rearranging her entire world. It's about choice. When time and energy are limited, what we care about most rises naturally. If she consistently makes room for you, even in small, ordinary ways, it signals emotional importance. You might notice that she adjusts her schedule slightly to stay connected. A conversation that could have been postponed still happens. A message arrives even on a long day. She remembers to follow up on something you mentioned earlier, not because she set a reminder, but because it stayed with her. Psychologically, this reflects what we call motivational relevance. The mind protects what feels meaningful. Another subtle but powerful sign is how she speaks about you to others. You may hear indirectly that she's mentioned you in conversations where it wasn't necessary, or she references you when talking about ideas, experiences, or perspectives. This matters because we tend to talk about what occupies our emotional landscape. When your name enters her social world, it often means you've already entered her inner one. Pay attention as well to how she reacts to your emotional steadiness. When a woman is drawn to you, your calm becomes regulating for her. She may seem more relaxed around you, more open, less guarded. This isn't because you're fixing her emotions, but because your presence feels grounding. From a psychological perspective, this is co-regulation, an unconscious process where one person's emotional stability positively influences another's nervous system. Women rarely experience this with men they feel neutral about. You may also notice that she becomes more playful with you over time. Not immature or performative, but relaxed. Humor deepens. Teasing becomes warmer. There's a sense of ease that wasn't there before. This playfulness often appears when emotional safety meets attraction. It's the nervous system saying, I can be myself here. Another important signal is how she handles moments of silence with you. Silence between friends can sometimes feel awkward or unnecessary. Silence between two people with emotional connection often feels comfortable. She doesn't rush to fill every pause. She stays present. This ability to sit in quiet connection reflects trust and intimacy, even when nothing is being said. You might also see a shift in how she responds to your independence. When a woman sees you as just a friend, your autonomy is expected and emotionally neutral. When she's interested, your independence often becomes attractive rather than distant. She respects your focus, your boundaries, your purpose, and instead of pulling away, she leans in emotionally. This dynamic is important because healthy attraction thrives where there is mutual respect, not emotional chasing. All of these behaviors point to the same underlying truth. She is emotionally investing without forcing outcomes. That's often how genuine interest looks: quiet, consistent, and integrated into real life. For you, the most grounded response is presence, not pressure, not overanalysis, just calm awareness. Because when interest is real, it doesn't need to be extracted. It reveals itself through priority, tone, and emotional availability. And as we continue, you'll begin to understand how these signs often culminate in one of the most overlooked but meaningful shifts of all. Another subtle but powerful way a woman shows that she wants more than friendship is how she involves you in her personal world. This isn't always obvious, and it doesn't always come as grand gestures. Often, it appears in small, quiet ways. She shares moments, memories, or experiences that she rarely reveals to others. Maybe she talks about her family dynamics, or mentions past challenges she faced, or even shares a personal habit or preference she usually keeps private. This is her letting you inside her emotional space. She's testing in a gentle way whether you can be trusted with more than casual information. Psychologically, this is significant because emotional vulnerability is one of the strongest signals of attraction. People don't open up lightly. When she chooses to reveal layers of herself, it's a subtle way of saying, "You matter to me, and I feel safe letting you see me." It's a kind of trust that goes beyond friendship. Friends can confide in each other, yes, but consistent and voluntary vulnerability often marks a shift towards something deeper. Another sign to notice is how she reacts to your successes and achievements. When someone is only a friend, they may be polite or supportive in a distant way. But when a woman is attracted, she celebrates your wins with more intensity. She may genuinely express excitement for your accomplishments or even reflect on how proud she feels of you. Psychologists call this vicarious reward, when another person's positive experiences trigger genuine emotional reward in us. The more she engages with your growth and joy, the more her attention is tied to your emotional presence, not just casual companionship. You might also notice that she often checks in, not just with questions, but with interest in your emotional state. How are you really feeling? How did that experience go? These aren't perfunctory inquiries. They signal care and attentiveness. It's a kind of emotional mirroring. She notices your inner shifts, which demonstrates attunement. And attunement is a key factor in emotional bonding. Another indicator is when she remembers what you enjoy and takes action, even subtly, to connect you with those things. Maybe she mentions a movie she knows you like or an event that aligns with your hobbies. She doesn't do it out of obligation. She does it because your preferences and joys matter to her. The difference between this and friendship is consistency. Repeated actions that show she's paying attention on an ongoing, emotionally meaningful level. One of the most overlooked signs is how she reacts when you disagree or challenge her. Many men assume that conflict indicates disinterest, but often a woman who likes you will handle disagreements thoughtfully. She will engage, not withdraw. She'll listen, respond, and sometimes even challenge your ideas, not to control you, but because she's invested enough to explore your thinking. This kind of emotional engagement is far more telling than simple agreement. All of these behaviors, vulnerability, attention, celebration of your growth, and thoughtful engagement, share one key trait: intentionality. She is choosing, repeatedly and consistently, to let you matter in her world. That intentionality is the invisible thread that separates attraction from friendship. As we move forward, you'll see how these emotional investments often translate into physical and social cues that are impossible to ignore if you're paying attention. Perhaps one of the most telling signs that a woman sees you as more than a friend shows up in how she manages her attention. It's not flashy or loud, it's subtle, persistent, and consistent. She reaches out when you're not around, shares thoughts that reminded her of you, or sends a message with no obvious reason, simply because you occupied her mind. Psychologically, attention is a form of currency. Where attention goes, emotional energy follows, and when she prioritizes you in these small ways, it's rarely accidental. Another powerful indicator is how she seeks connection through shared experiences. She may invite you into her world in ways that extend beyond casual friendship. A coffee, a walk, an event, or a conversation that lasts longer than necessary. The consistency matters. Interest often reveals itself not in a single moment, but in repeated gestures that signal she wants to include you in her life. Even her tone, laughter, and body language during these moments are often warmer, lighter, more attuned to you. You may notice, too, how she mirrors your emotional rhythms. If you're upbeat, she reflects it. If you're quiet or contemplative, she softens her pace to match yours. This subtle emotional synchrony is a natural sign of attraction. When someone is only being friendly, they rarely adapt to your inner world. They stay in their own bubble. But interest creates emotional alignment, almost like an invisible current connecting two people. At a deeper level, she begins to imagine scenarios that involve you. She talks about the future with a sense of we, even lightly. She may joke about things you could do together or speculate on experiences that include you. This is significant because the mind naturally tests emotional closeness before it fully commits. When she includes you in those imaginings, she's signaling that you've moved from observer to participant in her emotional life. And there's one last critical indicator that most men overlook: how she behaves when she sees you with others. This isn't about jealousy or possessiveness. It's subtle, almost imperceptible. She may become slightly more attentive, curious, or engaged. She may reference your interactions in conversation, not as critique, but as an acknowledgement that she cares about how you navigate the world. Psychologically, this reflects emotional investment and relevance. You matter to her, not superficially, but in a way that shapes her perceptions and reactions. What ties all these signs together is the invisible thread of emotional priority. Attention, vulnerability, shared experiences, subtle synchrony, and imagined we moments. These are the behaviors that quietly, consistently reveal attraction. For a man who understands them, clarity emerges without forcing situations or reading too deeply into a single interaction. Attraction is revealed in patterns, not single gestures. So as you reflect on your own relationships, pay attention to these consistent patterns. Notice where she makes room for you in her mind, her time, and her emotional world. Observe how she mirrors you, shares with you, and invests attention in ways that feel natural, not performative. Because when a woman wants you, it is rarely a dramatic announcement. It is a series of small, steady, unmistakable actions that, when observed clearly, speak louder than any words ever could, and understanding this is liberating. It frees you from uncertainty and guesswork. It allows you to respond with calm confidence, presence, and respect for both yourself and her, because now you see the truth. Attraction is not hidden. It is quietly, beautifully visible if you know where to look.